Welcome to the Scrapbooking Inspiration Podcast. Today, I'm joined by my friend Jen Weber from Funk and Weber Designs, and we are talking a little bit about some other creative things that you could be doing this Christmas time. As part of my series about the Creative Christmas Bundle, I've invited some very talented designers to come and talk to me about creating and their plans for December. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, it's great to have you here. I've known Jen.
It's great to be here, Melissa. It's great to be here, Melissa. We're on opposite sides of the world, so there's going to be somewhat of a delay sometimes.
Yes, yeah. So Jen's in Alaska, I'm in Australia, and we're coming to you to talk a little bit more about creativity and Christmas and all kinds of fun stuff. So I've known Jen for quite a few years online now, but since our listeners haven't necessarily met you before, why don't you just share a little bit about you and what you do?
All right. Well, I am Jen Funk Weber, and I am an Alaskan. I am also an embroiderer, a gardener, a pet sitter, a baker, a writer, and pretty much a total social media failure. I enjoy living in Alaska. Have a wonderful view of a glacier outside my window, and I actually like our Alaskan winters with all their cold and dark.
Well, that's a good thing because you've been, you've endured quite a few Alaskan winters.
That's true. Gosh, 24 now, I think. Yeah, a long time.
But I know one thing that you're not necessarily going to be there this winter, are you? You're off globetrotting.
That's true. That's true. We have about 2 more weeks left of winter here for us, and then we are off to Southern Africa, going to be staying in Botswana for a couple of months and hopefully touring around Namibia and maybe South Africa as well. Oh. So looking forward to that. It's a big dream trip for me. I've wanted to go to Africa since I was a kid and became aware that Africa existed. So this is a big deal. This is a big one, and it's going to be a long time, and I'm looking forward to it very much. Also a little bit nervous about it too. I've had nightmares about snakes in particular. Yep, I remember those from Australia too. There was one time when we were in Australia that we were tromping through some rather thick grass towards some rocks, and I remember stomping my way there and calling out to the snakes, we're coming, watch out." So I may be stomping around Africa just to alert the snakes that we're there.
I always like to think, Australia, we have small deadly things, and in Africa they have big deadly things. So.
And seriously, the snakes probably aren't the things I should be most concerned about. I think there are plenty of other more dangerous and more likely to be seen animals. So. But anyway, that's the one I'm worried about. Go figure.
That's okay. Well, I'm sure you'll be looking up at your snake identification charts to know which ones are poisonous and all this kind of thing.
Absolutely. We have one of those, and we've also read all about what to do if you do get bitten. And of course, the biggest thing is to remain calm.
Yes, so, I'm sure we'll all be doing that if we got a snake bite.
Right, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't think, the rational part of me, says that that's not the huge threat that I seem to think it is in my dreams. So we'll take our chances and be as smart as we can be.
Yeah. I have to say I haven't seen a snake in quite a few years myself, but because we have other creatures where we are that eat the snake eggs. So now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. There's the whole urban myth, if you have, well, maybe it's suburban myth. If you have lizards, you don't have snakes. I know that's not really actually true, but we have quite a few bobtails around and geckos and what have you, and they keep.
Right, I love those.
Yeah. What's funny is some of my family are from tropical Queensland, and geckos are kind of like real pests, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the cute baby gecko, and they're like, ew, get it away, as if it's like a cockroach or something.
No, they take care of the cockroaches.
Yeah, so I guess it depends, which creatures are pests as to whereabouts in the world you are.
Right, definitely.
Well, I know that you have a lot. You are a needlework designer, and I know that a lot of your artwork features animals, so it's kind of appropriate that we've been chatting about animals.
That's true.
So, to let people know a little bit about you, what inspires you in your creating?
What inspires me? I think that what inspires me to create, quite honestly, is DNA. I think it's in me, this desire to create. We all know that species have an innate desire to procreate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that may be more obvious in, other animals, not humans, but we are animals too. And in humans, I kind of think that this innate desire extends to all sorts of creating, not just procreating, depending on your specific DNA. I can't turn off my brain, and I think everybody can relate to that. There are times when you just cannot turn off your brain. I mean, who can stop the creation of ideas? This is why we have NyQuil and sleeping pills. For those of us with DNA that inspires creating, whatever kind of creating that may be, I don't think we can turn it off any more than a bull moose can turn off his, desire to wrestle and lock antlers with other bulls in September and October. So I think it is actually what inspires me to create it's just in me. It's a part of me, and it's something that I have a desire to do, and I'm never, ever going to get away from that. December inspires me to be crafty, because that's the time of year that it's so cold and dark outside that I'm inside. Mm-hmm. And I suddenly have all this time that can be spent writing and stitching and creating things. It's one of the things I love about Alaska and our seasonal life. In the summertime, I'm outside and gardening and hiking and doing things outside, whereas in the wintertime, I'm inside, and that's when I want to hole up. I want to be a bear in my den, and I sleep too. I don't want to sleep all winter. But that's the time when I want to knit and sew and embroider and do all those kinds of things, and bake, do inside warm, toasty, homey types of things. So somewhat it's the season, somewhat it's just in my blood and bones.
So I always find this really fascinating because, of course, being in the Southern Hemisphere, Christmas for us, or December, is such a actually it's not the height of summer. So here in Perth, it's quite nice. Some days are swimming weather, some days aren't. And,
I was actually in Perth for the tree lighting ceremony in 1998.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was there for Christmas tree lighting in Perth.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you'd ever been to Perth, but there you go.
Yep, it's been a long time ago now, but yep, we did. We spent a little bit of time there, and it was great. Loved Perth. Loved the west side of Australia. That was great.
Yeah, we do like it here. It's our little corner of the world. So for you, I know that some people, who struggle with the whole long cold winters, they may not be feeling super inspired, and so that's where I think something like our Creative Christmas Bundle is going to jumpstart people. There's going to be a whole range of different creative things that you could do to, either celebrate Christmas, or there's going to be Christmas cards and all sorts of good things in there. So what are you contributing to our Creative Christmas Bundle?
Okay, well, I am a needleworker more than a paper crafter, but I enjoy marrying different crafts and using techniques from one and another. I teach stitching as well as finishing classes, and I sell cross-stitch patterns as well as finished needlework. My contribution to the bundle then is a pair of black and white silhouette cross-stitch patterns from our Let There Be Night series. Mm-hmm. These we have a whole series of these. It's almost all white stitching on black fabric, creating silhouettes. We have 11 of them because I like nice round numbers. I call it a baker's 10. But I'm submitting Silent Night and The Night Before Christmas, the two patterns. They're two of our best sellers. Silent Night is a picture of a peaceful cabin in the woods with just a touch of yellow light shining out through the cabin window, and Orion shining in the sky. It actually is Orion. The stars are in all the right places, and we enjoy watching the night sky here in Alaska. The Night Before Christmas has Santa flying across the sky, across the moon, with a touch of color on the tree in the cabin window and the lead reindeer's nose. The patterns, you don't have to be a stitcher to use these patterns. Of course you can. If you can stitch an X, you can cross stitch. Cross stitch is kind of like paint by number. You stitch by symbol instead. There's not a lot where there aren't hardly any color changes. It's all white on black fabric, but you could also reverse that. Black fabric can be challenging to stitch on. So if you've never done it, you may want to stitch the negative space in black thread on white fabric. That would be somewhat easier to see. You can also, one of the things I've been wanting to do that I haven't done yet, I might do it to my dining room table, is to set up a wide mesh screen on top of the table to create a grid, and then paint dots where the stitches go. Paint dots on the grid with an eraser end or Q-tip or something like that. But you could paint the pattern rather than stitch the pattern. You could use a fine mesh screen on paper, prick holes where the pattern is, and then spray paint over the holes to get the design on the paper in the back or something like that. I think there are lots of ways that paper crafters might be able to use these patterns. So if you don't want to try stitching, that's cool, that's fine. But I think these might be fun for paper crafters too.
For sure. I've seen the cross stitches we're talking about, and I'll actually have some pictures in the show notes for this episode so you can have a look at what we're talking about. But they're definitely very beautiful, and I love that they're so stunning, and yet like you said, not too many color changes, and really something that anyone could have a go at. And you could then you could use them for all sorts of things. You could how big, I guess the finished product would depend on how big your Ada or your fabric is. Right.
Exactly. So that can be different sizes, but they're all the same sizes. They all have the same stitch count. So if you had one frame, you could swap them in and out of the same frame, or if you had a tuck pillow, one pillow would do it. You could tuck them in and out of the same pillow. And you could actually even stitch it really tiny. You want on linen, you could actually make them really teeny tiny, but they're about 5 by 7. If you do them fairly big, not too big, but not too small.
Sounds like a perfect size. So okay. So one thing I wanted to talk to everyone in this series about is about getting creativity in your December. So do you have a tip for people who are listening about how they can fit it all in if they've got for their creativity?
Sure. In December.
I'll just re-say that one. I'll edit it out.
Okay. Go for it. Cut.
So one thing I'm sharing with everyone in this series is their practical tips for fitting creativity in during December. Do you have something to share with our listeners?
I sure do. We all have routine things that we do this time of year. Maybe we're sending out cards or buying gifts, or we're decorating, baking, visiting family or friends, organizing parties, all sorts of things. And one thing that I like to do is change things up. Pick one thing and do it differently. I find that doing the same things over and over the same way gets boring, and it gets less creative the more we do it, and it becomes more of a burden than a pleasure, and it's supposed to be fun and pleasurable. So I like to change things up. For instance, I normally send out, I'm a writer, so I send out a long Christmas letter every year, kind of a year in review, which some people hate and some people love. I'm one of those who loves those. And last year I decided that instead of sending out a letter, I would make a video. And that became my challenge. And it was very creative and very fun, and awfully time consuming. I'm not especially good at video yet. If you typically purchase gifts, you can commit to making, just one, or making 10% of the gifts you give. Make a different kind of cookie. That's one that I always do. I always look for some different kind of cookie that I've never made before, or I change up a cookie that I've made. I've been making spritz cookies since I was a kid. I have my mother's cookie press that we used for spritz cookies. And just a couple years ago, I decided I would make multicolored kind of psychedelic 1960s cookies. And I didn't even use traditional colors. I used, pink and lime green and yellow and turquoise and separate balls, all different colors, threw them all in the press together and then made my cookies. And they're my new favorites. I absolutely love them. They are so cool. So that was, something creative that I did a couple years ago, just trying to do something different. So whatever you normally do, change it up.
I love that, because it's not adding yet another thing to your Christmas schedule. If you're, maybe you're not in the, in the sticks, as we would say in Australia. Maybe you've got a lot on your plate. Maybe you're running around with children or whatever. Change it up. Let them go to town and decorate some Christmas cards and send them to the rellies, and they'll love them. And you're doing something that you've already committed to doing, but making it creative, changing it up, and making it fun. I think that's great. Great tip.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't add anything to your plate. Just tweak it. And another way to tweak that I also find really, really useful is to put a limit on it. Give yourself, rather than decorating your tree as you do every year, limit yourself to just the blue decorations. Limits. People think about limits as not being creative, but actually limits, for me, kind of spawn creativity. So limits can be a good thing. Take something off your list rather than putting something on it.
Oh, well, that's what we all need to hear at this time of year, I think. So thank you. Thanks so much. Well, I'm really excited for the Creative Christmas Bundle. As you can probably hear, we're putting together a selection of products from paper crafters, digital crafters, needle workers, all sorts of creative things that will help you put a little bit of creativity into your Christmas and help you get, if you are planning to make Christmas cards, give you a few choices on how you might do that. If you are planning to scrapbook about your Christmas, give you some inspiration for how you might do that. So if you're interested to learn more about the Creative Christmas Bundle, head to scrapbookbundle.com/Christmas, and there you can get your name on the mailing list, so you'll be the first one to hear about the super low price for this bundle. And you'll also you'll be the first to know about all the exciting creative things that are inside. So thank you so much, Jen, for joining me today. It's been fun to chat, and I hope you enjoy your last few days in Alaska before heading off on your big adventure.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. It's been great chatting with you, and I am really grateful to all you scrappers for letting me play along with this. I love hanging out with scrapbookers and paper crafters. You guys are cool, and you give me loads of ideas for embroidery. I hope you can use embroidery with your paper crafts.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Scrapbooking Inspiration Podcast today. If you'd like to learn more, head to scrapbookingpodcast.com where you can find the show notes for this episode and the links to everything we've talked about.